Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the show. Thank you to the Say Foundation and the Say community for sponsoring this episode and this podcast. And with that, let's dive right in. I got pulled over by the goddamn cops on the way here, those fucking pigs! God damn it, I was going 45 miles per hour in the 35 zone. That was actually the 30 zone. And I was going 75. No, I'm just kidding. I was going 30. I was going 45 in the 30 zone. And guess what, this motherfucker... Oh, you were speeding! Shut the fuck up! Go arrest some homeless people for sleeping on the goddamn street and leave me alone! Okay, sorry. I don't get pulled over very often. This is only the second time. First time was also for speeding. Maybe I shouldn't speed. Maybe you should... Anyway. Shout out to all the cops out there who keep us safe, who keep us protected from all harms, all dangers, all reckless drivers, drunk drivers. I want them to pull over those motherfuckers on their phone. No phones while you drive. It's dangerous. It's super bad. But fuck that shit. I'm drinking today a zero sugar Monster, ultraviolet. I was going to go for the Celsius, but then I saw that they were advertising a zero sugar Monster. And I'm like, fuck it. This is not sponsored by Monster. But damn, this one is good, man. First time I ever had a Monster, I was 15 years old. I was going to school in San Francisco. I got off the Cal train, and I'm like, I gotta get this goddamn Monster. I gotta try this shit, bro. I drank the Monster, and I had a Hebrew test. And while I was doing the test, my hand was shaking from that caffeine. I drank a whole Monster. I never even drank I never drank coffee. I didn't drink coffee. I was 15. Who drinks an energy drink when they're 15? My hand was like this. Shalom. Shalom. Anyway, what do I want to talk about today? Some great things. Some very exciting things. I just got back yesterday from Singapore. Token2049. I did not step foot in the conference. I would never step foot in a crypto conference unless I'm fucking paid to. All these nerds strolling around. Oh, what's your Telegram? Let me show you on my shitty-ass project that I need to raise money for. But I really went for the Karate Combat, of course, working for the Karate Combat as the announcer. It's fantastic. Thank you so much to Karate Combat for bringing me out there. It's an experience of a lifetime, for sure. I left to go to Singapore midnight on Sunday, meaning Sunday? Yeah. Sunday, and then I come back close to midnight on Thursday. A quick trip. Many hours of flying. I was only in Singapore for about 2.5 days. It's incredible that you can get around the world in such a fast amount of time. I literally went around the entire globe. I flew from Miami to Qatar, Singapore, San Francisco, back to Miami. I circumnavigated the globe. Okay? People 100 years ago, they couldn't even fathom. They couldn't even fathom something like that. That's insane. I literally went around the entire fucking world in 5 days. It wasn't, and most of it was not traveled, right? That is insane. That is insane. And on the way, I was listening to an interesting pod. Lex Fridman. he had this ancient historian on. Shout out to lexfridman, has got me blocked on all socials. Come on, Lex. Come on, I'm a good guy. What the fuck? Anyway, shout out Lex. Maybe you'll unblock me one day. But anyway, he had a guy on that was talking about ancient Rome, the rise and fall of ancient Rome, and he made a very interesting point. I was listening to this on my 16-hour flight to Doha, Qatar. Shout out Qatar. Qatar Airways. He was saying that they talked about the wars, the Punic Wars, with which are amazing stories. Hannibal from Carthage, traveling over the Alps, destroying Rome, Lake Trasimene, Cannae, incredible battles. Will I bore you with the details? Probably not. But they made a very interesting point that the Punic Wars were actually, in some ways, even bigger than the World Wars, on a bigger battlefield. And how's that possible? It's all relative, but it was just an interesting point that during the World War, World War I, World War II, we already had transportation that was moving way faster. But back then, they were using wooden boats, and it would take them a month just to get from Spain, which was the main area of Carthage. Carthage controlled Spain at the time. It would get a month from Spain to Italy. A month! A fucking month! Can you a month! So they're fighting on that time scale, right? They're still like they've started the war, and then it's like, you know what I'm saying? Meanwhile, I'm flying around the world in hours. So that's just an interesting point, that it took them the speed of travel was so slow that in some way the battlefield was bigger. The battlefield got smaller the faster you travel in some ways, which is an interesting point. So thank you to Lex for entertaining me for 3.5 hours. But yeah, this was a very exciting trip for me, a very meaningful trip for me, because actually I was born in Singapore, which you may or may not know. You may or may not know. Yes, I was born in Singapore 29 years ago. And this was the first time that I had been back ever since I left when I was 4 years old. I had not been there in 25 years. That is so weird even to say that. There's nothing that I was like, oh, I've known this guy for 25 years. You know what I mean? But I feel like, damn, I haven't been to a place for 25 years. It's pretty crazy to think about that. And this was my first time going back. And it was great. It was incredible. I haven't spent a lot of time in Asia since recently. Obviously, I used to. But it was a great experience. And the karate combat, the event was fantastic. It was fun, some great fights. We're going to dive into those later. But I'm going to just break down Singapore, some of the things that I felt, some of the things that I saw. And of course, the KOLs of Singapore. Can you believe it? So, as I said, I flew from Miami to Doha. And I touched down in Doha after 16 hours. And I was really impressed by the airport. I'm like, damn, this shit is nice. I was like, this is one of the nicest airports I've been to until I got to Singapore. Because that airport is, wow, it's even nicer. You wouldn't even believe. It's one of the, anyway, so in Qatar, in Doha, it's a mall, like a super high-end mall, like Hermes, Fendi, Louis Vuitton, multiple stores of each, by the way. Not just one Louis Vuitton. We have several Louis Vuittons. We have several Gucci's in Doha, okay? And the whole ceiling was made from glass. And they had these amazing glass, like, columns that would come in. And they had, like, an indoor park, as if you're in a park. like Central Park. They had plants, real plants, flowers with dirt, and they had like these footpaths and trees. And the lights there, the lights are like lamp posts, as if you're outside. It was really cool. Very beautiful. And so I walked around there, just waiting for my flight. I jumped some rope. I I did some push-ups, of course. You got to stay in shape. Then got onto Singapore, touchdown in Singapore, and now we got to Singapore. I was just blown away by the airport in Singapore. It's called, basically they have the airport and they have a mall next to it called the Jewel. And now they had water fixtures in Doha. But the Jewel, is just incredible. It's a mall, of course. Commerce, baby. And you're going to see Singapore, commerce heavy. It's a massive sphere, but massive. Massive. Massive, okay? With water pouring down from the ceiling. I'm just standing there, and it's like 4 or 5 or 6 stories high, and you're standing there inside looking at the water pouring down, and then a train, like a monorail, inside of the building, like passes by this water. You're like, what the fuck is going on here? Later on, one of the guys, Josh Palmer, who does the commentary for Karate Combat, happens also to be an architect. He was telling me that building is like one of the most expensive, the like 20 or 25th most expensive building in the entire world. And by the way, the Marina Bay Sands, where the Karate Combat event was held, and Token2049 was held. 429 was held. And the Marina Bay Sands, it's an incredible structure, and that is like the second or like the first most expensive building, billions of dollars in order to construct that thing. Massive boat on the top. You've seen the pictures. Wild. Incredible architecture all around in Singapore, really. Like, it's like very beautiful, very unique. You touch down and you see a lot of greenery. I was like, it feels very tropical there, very green. Some of the buildings are not very attractive, but some of the buildings, they look just very unique, very pretty. There's a lot of nice colors. Singapore is very, very clean. Very clean. Everyone always says that because you get fined for gum, no vapes, no FAP. They're so strict about food and drink. Like on the metro, on the subway, you get a fine, $1,000 fine for smoking. Okay. $500 fine for eating or drinking. $500 fine for eating or drinking on the subway. God damn, son, they are strict in Singapore. They are so strict. I think it's illegal to walk around in the nude, like with your tits out. As a man, not as a woman. Of course, women should never be doing that. That is haram. But men can show their boobs, as far as I'm concerned. But not in Singapore. Probably not in Doha either. Miami's okay. So I was glad I didn't get arrested. I had this idea that I was going to pretend to get arrested for having my shirt off. And I had this vision of the cops like holding me back, and I'm like, do you know who I am? as I'm shirtless. Do you know you can't do this to me? So, Singapore, very clean, very beautiful. We arrive. The cab driver. I didn't even take a cab. That's not correct. I actually had a pickup from a nice man on the shuttle. And in the shuttle with me was Shiny D, who was one of the influencer fighters. Shout out Shiny D. He actually won his fight. We'll get back. We'll dive into that soon. I'm gonna do a whole recap of the 49 Karate Combat 49 as far as I remember. It was a good event. So yeah, so I pop in the cab. Shiny D is there. We take a pic. We ride all the way to the HolidayInn Express. The HolidayInn Express, yes. By the way, and you know, that just gives you like, it's crazy that these brands, these Western brands, are just completely permeated throughout the entire world. I mean, yeah, of course, you're always like, okay, they have McDonald's everywhere. They got Burger King everywhere. And they do. But they also have Shake Shack, 7-Eleven, HolidayInn Express. It's like, they had in Doha a Joe in the Juice, which is like, I've only seen in New York City. Like, in Doha airport, I was like, what is going on over here? What in the world? So we get to the HolidayInn Express. And, yeah, I get into the room. Tiny room. Absolutely tiny, like maybe Asian size. I don't know. But it was a very, very small room, which is fine. I was by myself. I don't know. I don't need luxury accommodations. But I'm just saying, it's smaller in Asia. Also the penis, you know. It's small. My wife likes to say that I'm Asian from the waist down. Okay. Rude. So we're at the HolidayInn Express, and I message Maria. Maria is the talent coordinator for Karate Combat. And I ask her, let me get to the press conference. The presser. Turns out the press conference was at the Jewel, where I just was at the airport. So, packed up my... Nothing. I didn't pack up anything. I just got back on the shuttle, and I went back to the presser. I was a little bit late for that one. But I saw mostly the influencer fighters talking shit to each other. And yeah, Shiny D was really good at that one. He got the crowd hyped. Good yelling. Yeah, the influencers are much better at shit talking than the fighters. The fighters, they let their hands do the talking. The influencers just do yapping. You know, they're professional yappers. So, yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's interesting. Like, I was saying to Awesome, the president. He's also a coach, but President Awesome. I was like, yeah, you got to pair influencers with the fighter. It's the perfect match, right? You got the bullshitter, you got the beta shitter, right? Together, ba-boom! I think it'll be fantastic. But yeah, it was at the press conference, and nothing nothing out of the ordinary, nothing extraordinary, but I was just hanging out there, saw the people, saw Dave, only LARPing, and then, yep, just not too much to report. It was in the Jewel, though, which was really nice, and you had the background of the waterfall that I mentioned earlier, like, in the back of the press conference, which was, you know, really nice, really on point. And then I head back to the room, to the hotel, and at this point, I was very hungry, very, very hungry. So I wanted to get something to eat, and I started to walk around trying to ascertain some food. And this is my first time walking around on the streets of Singapore in 25 years, which was pretty cool. And we were in the neighborhood called Katong. And it was very quaint. A lot of small buildings, not a lot of high rises at all. And they had, I mentioned the architecture. They have some very beautiful housing. I don't remember what it's called, but again, very colorful townhouses, all stacked up together. They even had some beautiful standalone housing there as well. And on the streets, they had just, as you're walking, many temples, Buddhist temples, with these amazing, dragon figurines and Buddhas and all lit up and incense and all these things are, it's kind of cool, like to, you're just walking and you see apartment buildings, whatever, and then just like a red temple with a big fat Buddha smoking a J there. No smoking J's in Singapore, okay? There's no smoking J's. You do not want to be smoking a J in Singapore. Hell no. So that first night I was just walking around, and honestly, I was a little overwhelmed. Sometimes I feel a little anxious, in a new place. You don't know how to communicate with people. You don't know, what to do, how to talk, whatever. But you know what? Singapore is so incredibly Western. I was surprised. I was so surprised. Now I knew they spoke English there. I knew they spoke English. I knew, they call it Singlish. But I thought it would be like kind of like a broken English, or like a mixed an English like mixed with Chinese, or you know what I mean. But English is like the primary language in such a big way that like all the signs are in English. Very few had translations even into Chinese. The menu on the restaurant, it's all in English. And again, it's not broken English. It's like a high level of English, and it's an English that you have to understand. It's like an idiomatic English, meaning like there's things that you have to know about culture and society and language and grammar in order to like understand these things. So I'll give you an example, like Luckin Coffee. Luckin Coffee, maybe you remember that one from Wall Street Bets. But basically they had, they were advertising Luckin Coffee, and they had a sign out there for an oat milk latte, and it said, "Oat is the goat," right? Which is super interesting. Oat is the goat. Why? Why is that interesting? Because first of all, it's a rhyme. Okay, so that means you need to understand pronunciation, right? But then goat, this idea of goat, that's like the greatest of all time, right? You have to know that, right? You have to be part of some sort of, it's not just language. That's also like a meme, right? That's a deeper level of understanding. And I went to eat at a different place. It was called Abundance, right? Abundance. And, the bun was highlighted because it had bao buns, right? And all of the employees wearing they were wearing shirts because they don't want to be arrested. And on the shirt it says, take a bow, right? Take a bow, which again is a play on a idiomatic saying, right? Take a bow. It's not even a necessary, like it's not even like a grammatically, if you're on the surface level, when you say take something, you're saying, you take it. Why would you take a bow? That's like something that you have to understand in English. That's an idiomatic saying, and then they're using that idiomatic saying to make a pun. I was very impressed because, again, that just shows how high the level of English is, that's just at a restaurant. I'm not talking about the fucking university here. It was at a fucking, right? So I was very impressed with that, especially, you know, spending a lot of time out of the United States. Like in Israel, for example, in Israel, a lot of people speak English, right? I would say 80% of the people speak, I don't even know 80%, but a lot of people speak English, and there is a lot of English you see around. But the English that they have there is definitely not as refined, and you see a lot of grammatical errors, and you see spelling mistakes. Like even on you know, signs in a store or whatever. You see like, oh, that's wrong. That doesn't make sense. In Singapore, you don't see that. It's perfect. It's like, yeah, a very, very high level, which I was really, really surprised by. I was really surprised how Western it was. Yeah, and again, like the English high level, all these brands, you know, they use dollars, Singapore dollars, but it's all marked with dollars. So that was a very interesting thing, and you know, I don't think, you know, in less developed countries, it's not like that. In Asia, for sure. In Thailand, I'm sure it's not like that. In Malaysia, it's not like that. But yeah, let's go back to that first night. I got on a little tangent there, but I'm walking around, getting a little overwhelmed. I'm trying to find something to eat. I don't have any Wi-Fi. I don't have any connection, so I'm just kind of walking up and down the street that I'm on. And I went into this little mall that was next to there. And I was trying to find something to eat. And I went downstairs. There was just like this hawker area. And in Singapore, this hawker is like this concept of all these like little you know, markets, but it's like a food market. So it's like street food. So that had kind of a street food area. And I was gonna get something there. But I got kind of overwhelmed. You know, I got kind of scared. I'm like, I haven't bought any. I don't know how to buy things here. Turns out you buy the things the exact same way you buy in the United States, with a credit card. Who knew? Who knew? But I felt like, I don't know. I just felt very overwhelmed, though. Although people were eating and having a great time, I just felt like, I don't know what's going on. But I ended up eating. I saw another place that was serving lasca. Lasca, it's called. It's this kind of soup. I didn't try it because I think it has. Again, I feel overwhelmed. I was like, does this have pork? Does this have seafood? I should have just asked them. But I ended up eating at this Japanese place, which is fine. It was good sushi. I had some otoro, some salmon belly, which was really nice. Some yakitori. But the selection of food in Singapore was just like they were very into Mexican food. Like I saw so many like taco places, which I was like, I did not expect to see that many taco places in Singapore. Okay, like, am I racist? Maybe. But like, again, it's just like, it's very interesting. And yeah, it's just different, but in very subtle ways, you know. And I feel like some of the differences you may not even notice because it's so subtle. And the restriction there, I feel like the restriction is a big part of the culture. It might be a big part of Asian culture in general, but it's very subdued, and it's very clamped down. It's because, like, in order to have a city that is so clean and so safe, you know, it requires a certain level of restriction and moderation that I think that you don't necessarily know. You don't even know what is being limited, I feel like, until you spend a lot of time there. The obvious things, you know, obviously it's obvious, the food, the drink, the smoking, the restriction on that, but I feel like there's even more. There's deeper. There's it's like a mentality in the culture in Singapore. I don't know about other places, but yeah, I think it's like that. But yeah, it's very good. It was very good to be there. And also it gives you a different perspective on the world. You know, in for example, the U.S. You talk about, you know, Ukraine, Russia, Israel, Palestine, blah blah blah. You know, I don't think they give a shit about that over there. Like they don't give a flying fuck about that, right? It's like completely different, which is interesting. Again, it gives you perspective. Like when you spend so much time, you know, in the United States, or you know, on X.com. Then you get caught up in these you know, these debates, these circular ideologies, like even the idea, like even gender. You know, in the United States, gender is such a big thing. You got a gay bathroom, you got a straight bathroom, you got a bi bathroom, you got a him, you got a they, you got a her. So in Doha, right in the airport, they have a men's room and a woman's room, not a bathroom, not a men's bathroom and a woman's bathroom. They have a men's quiet room and a woman's quiet room. And I bet you your ass, if I was walking into the woman's quiet room and said I identify as a woman, I would probably be arrested in 3 fucking seconds, right? So it's just completely different, and people don't. It's not even a conversation. It's people don't even care about these things over there. They're focused on some complete other stuff. But yeah. So that first night, I ended up eating at that sushi place. I went to the grocery store just to check it out, just to see what they had, and I was very happy. What I love about Asians have a special regard for fruit, okay? The fruit that they have in Asia and in Asian supermarkets, it's just amazing. Like I don't know if you've ever heard in Japan that they have those like $100 watermelons, or like square fucking watermelons. You know what I'm talking? Like, so they have like these grapes in the store. That these grapes, they're like $12 for one bunch, right? A small amount. They're double wrapped, right? You got you got a like a what is it called? Like a styrofoam wrapping, but the grapes are in a plastic as well. So it's a plastic, the styrofoam, and then the package outside. Right? So 3 layers for these $12 grapes. And the grapes are delicious. And I'm happy to spend fucking $12. It's like eating a jewel. Like they don't even have grapes like that here. And another thing that I really liked was these coconuts. I bought these 2 coconuts. They had these coconuts that were like pre-prepared. So they were sealed. It's like a young Thai coconut. But they had like a little pin that they had already like put in the top. So all you had to do, and it comes with a little straw. So you would slam down the pin, then that would make a hole in the coconut, and then you just put in the straw and you drink it. Fantastic. It's so great. Why don't they have that here? I don't know. That's fantastic. And then after I drank up all the coconut, I took the coconut and I was like, I got to eat the inside, right? So I just smashed it on the ground until I did this in my hotel room, because if I smashed coconuts on the street, bro, you get arrested for that. No littering. Fine. Jail. Cane your ass. Whip your ass. Dead. So, yeah. So, yeah, that was pretty much the first night. That was the first night. I got there, like I said, 3 o'clock. I went to bed 12 o'clock or so. Woke up in the morning around 6 the next day. This is day 1. This is my first full day. I only had 2 full days, so this is my first full day. And yeah, I got up. I did some exercise, some jump rope. I went outside, took my shirt off, which I knew was illegal. But I said, fuck the police coming straight from the underground. What are you going to do, arrest me, Singapore, bitch? Come on, I'm jumping rope here in the nude. So I start jumping rope here in the nude. Nothing happened. I did it quickly. I did it. Trust me, I wasn't fucking around, dude. I really did not want to get arrested. I did not bring any illicit contraband in there. I know some people did. Some people bring their vape. Some people bring their fucking tobacco. We saw those guys get arrested for their $20,000 not 20,000, the 20,000 condoms. Was that real, by the way? Was that ever confirmed? I have no idea, but so they bring their condoms in. So I got up, I jumped some rope, I had some exercise, and then I get some breakfast in the hotel at the Holiday Inn Express. I listened, as I was working out, I listened to Tom Segura and Joe Rogan bullshitting as they do on the pod. Love Joe Rogan. Who doesn't love Joe Rogan? A lot of people. I love Joe Rogan. So I finished my little workout, jump rope, lift some weights, hit the breakfast. Usually I don't eat breakfast, but when I'm traveling, gotta eat breakfast too. But ended up happening, I barely even ate that day. All I ate was breakfast and an apple. I didn't even eat dinner that day. So I had my breakfast at the Holiday Inn Express, and they have all of the, the regular American, Western style breakfast that you would expect to get at the Holiday Inn Express in Orlando. Cereal, some croissants, muffins, oatmeal, egg, scrambled egg, basic stuff. But then, on the other side, they had all of the Asian breakfast food, which was fantastic. I was all into that. They had roasted chicken, straight up roasted chicken for breakfast. I'm like, fuck yeah, this is the best. This is the shit, man. This is the shit. Chicken and rice for breakfast, dude. That's actually a good fucking breakfast. You don't need to eat sugary Lucky Charms, okay? Slurping down fucking whole milk in your Lucky Charms. Fuck that shit. I'm eating a chicken with curry, a fucking rice congee, tofu, like stir-fried noodles. This is breakfast, all right? Fantastic. It was great. It was great. Yeah, I ate that roasted. I slurped up that roasted chicken, baby. It was fantastic. What a good breakfast. And then, so, day one, so what happened, I didn't mention earlier, that I messaged Maria. She's a talent coordinator. And she organizes the talent, and she arranges for the transportation and stuff. So she arranged for the transportation for the press conference the day earlier. And as I'm arriving at the Jewel, where the press conference was, I see Maria. She's a very nice lady. I say, hey, how you doing? And she looks distraught. She looks very sad. I'm like, what's going on? And she says, my husband, Joe, had a heart attack. I'm like, what? Joe also is part of the Karate Combat production. Super nice guy. And I was just completely shocked. So I don't know. I don't know the full story, but basically he had this attack and they had to take him to the hospital. And again, this guy is super nice, Joe. I had spoken to him a bunch of times, like at previous karate combats. We always chatting up. They live in Mexico. He was telling me all about his Mexican food and stuff like that. They're American, but they live down there. So she told me that he was sick, and I was like, what the? That made me sad. I was like, what the hell? So I asked her, I said, do you want me to come visit? Does he want visitors, right? Does he want anyone to come show up at the hospital? And she said, yeah, well, if you want to come, I'm going to be leaving at 11:30. So I said, okay, so let's go. So I went with Maria to the hospital, and I had an ulterior motive for going there as well, because actually that was a hospital which I was born in. And I felt like this was a great opportunity, not only to support this guy, but also to see some history, Gabriel Haines history over here. And yeah, I went over there, and I'm very happy that I did. I'm very happy that I did, because visiting sick people, visiting people who are unwell, that are in the hospital, especially, it means a lot. It means a lot. I was very sick. I was very sick at one point. I had cancer. Maybe you know, maybe you don't. But you remember the people that come and visit you in the hospital. And you remember the people that do not come visit you in the hospital. And I remember Moshe and Israel, two guys that, I worked one I had known previously, but they volunteered at this cancer organization. But they came to visit me, and it cheered me up. They like brought a ball or whatever. We fucked around for a little bit, and it made me really happy. It made me really happy, and it makes people really happy when you take time out of your day to go spend time with them, knowing that you could be doing anything else. I was in Singapore. I could be seeing sights, whatever it is, but that feeling that someone cares about you enough to take time out of their day to sit with you and just to chat, even just to take your mind off of things. It is very, very, very important. And I've spent time with a lot of sick people, cancer patients, and one lady, one person, I spent some time with, my friend's mom, Penny. She was very sick. She passed away, but I spent some time with them before she did, just again to support them. This was many years ago, but they mentioned several times how the family members had not come to visit Penny. And that is heartbreaking. That is absolutely heartbreaking, and it's very sad. It's very sad. You're not too fucking busy. You're lazy. Okay? Don't make excuses. Health is one of the most important things in this goddamn life. And we got to take that seriously. Take that seriously. So if there is someone sick that you know, a family member, a friend, ask them, can I come visit you? Is it okay? If they say no, some people don't want it. Some people want privacy. I get that. But they're fucking bored. They're sitting there in the hospital room. Doctors checking in on them, giving them numbers, giving them medicine. Can't even move. Someone walks in and puts a smile on your face. That is meaningful. And that means a lot. And it meant a lot to me. And I know it meant a lot to Joe and to Maria. They told me so, and I felt it. And that means a lot to me. And I'm honestly proud of myself. I'm fucking crying over here. Look at me, Gabriel. Fucking genius over here. But I am proud of myself that I took the opportunity to spend time with these people. And it made them happy, and it made me happy. And I'm really glad I did it. And I would do it again, you know? It wasn't a lot of effort in my part. I just sat on the car. They drove me there. I just sat in the hotel, chatted with them. But you know what? That makes a goddamn impact on people. That makes a huge impact. If I was sick in a foreign country with no family, no friends, only my wife, and someone was like, hey, let's spend some time together. I hope you're okay. That means a lot. That means a lot. So please, take that opportunity to provide the support to the people that need you. Take that opportunity. Be open to opportunity. And when you feel like there is someone that you can help, then you go and help them. Personally, I don't necessarily think that you need to, there's a big difference between volunteering to go to the hospital, just to visit random sick people. I've never done that. That's a lot different. But if there is someone that that is sick, that isn't doing well at their house, at the hospital, go visit. Go fucking visit. Drive your ass down there. It makes a huge difference. And thank God he is doing well as far as last time I saw him. And even at the hospital, he had, he seemed okay. He really seemed okay, and that made me happy. He was smiling. He had color. They were very worried about, certain things that the doctor had said. But overall, it was fantastic, and I'm glad that I did it, and I'm glad that I got to go to the hospital where I was born after almost 30 years, 29 years. That is a real special experience that, I don't know when the next time that I will go to Singapore, but it just felt cool. I mean, I don't know what you're supposed to feel going to the hospital that you were born in at, but I took a picture. I sent it to my mom. And that means something to me. That's the Gabriel Haines personal history, the personal journey of Gabriel Haines. And again, I want to thank Karate Combat for bringing me out there, because I don't know the next time that I will go out there. You have to have a reason. And the reason this time was Karate Combat. And thank you very much to them for that. And so after going to the hospital, and by the way, this hospital and all of Singapore is so clean, technologically advanced, very pretty. Like, they were doing renovations in the hospital. I don't know when's the last time you've been to the hospital. Hopefully not recently, but hospital's kind of not the nicest. But that one was very nice, like new, updated. Definitely looked, probably didn't look like that when I was born there. Automatic doors everywhere. No touch. Like, it was just like you would wave your hand in front of the door would open. Yeah, so pretty cool stuff. So we head back. I head back to the hotel, and that night was the ceremonial weigh-ins. Earlier in the day, I had went to the official weigh-ins, and one of the fighters actually missed weight by a tremendous amount, like 12 pounds. And the team was scrambling to find this dude a replacement fight. Like, 12 pounds overweight is really ridiculous. So, went to the not the press conference, the official weigh-in that night. Official weigh-ins, whatever. Not that exciting, I don't think. But the story of how they got this guy, basically they replaced the 12-pound guy, the guy who was overweight, with a new fighter. And this fighter, his name, so there was 2 late notice fighters that came in like literally the day before. So this first guy that I'm referring to, his name is Chris. I think he's newborn on Instagram. So Chris, this kid, he's probably my fucking age. He came in to corner Shazib, and Shazib was the headliner for KC49. He won. He was the interim champ. He is the interim champ now. So Chris had come in to corner Shazib, and they said to Chris, do you want to fight? Like, do you want to replace this guy? And this guy, Chris, had not even, he came to Singapore with no expectation of fighting. He just came to corner his friend, right? And this guy, Chris, obviously is a fighter. He trains a lot. And he's like, yeah, fuck it, I'm in. So, and they said, and the coach says to him, well, I know you can fight, but are you in shape? Like, you're gonna get tired. You're gonna gas out. But then this guy, Chris, he's like, he goes downstairs and he does like sprints or whatever. And he's like, yeah, I'm in good shape. I got that cardio, baby. Put me in. How much you gonna pay me? And they gave him like 10K. And he's like, yeah, he's in 10K. So they give this guy 10K to fight on 1 day's notice. What a badass thing. Someone paying you $10,000 to fight a guy tomorrow. That is just so wild. It's so crazy. So, and he said, and he accepted. And he ended up winning. Which is on 1 day's notice, to come in with no training, to beat the guy, to have that confidence in yourself is really impressive. And shout out to Chris. But believe it or not, the guy that they brought in for the co-main, because what ended up happening is they replaced both fighters. So they made the guy that was overweight, fight at a different weight. And they also brought in his original opponent, a new opponent. So this guy's name, let me look up this guy's name. So for the co-main event, it was Zabar Askarov, right? He was supposed to fight Levy, I believe. Okay? And what ended up happening, so for Dabar, this guy, he has 300 fights. They had to bring in a new opponent. So they flew in the same day from Thailand. They flew in this guy called Award Kazimba. The same day he flew in from Thailand, the day of the fucking fight, to fight in the co-main event of Karate Combat 49. And he won. He was a massive underdog. Like 20%, like 80-20. And this guy, Award Kazimba, they told him the day before, the day of Karate Combat 49, they bring this guy in to fight from Thailand, and he wins in one of the most incredible KOs that you will see. In the first round, Kazimba was nearly dead. He was dead. I think he was getting smashed with elbows. Nasty. But in the second round, this guy comes out and puts on A KO that you do not see very often. He hit Zabar 5 times on the way down. As Zabar was falling to the ground, Kazimba was hitting him in the head. You do not see shit like that. Usually it's 1, maybe a 2, and they go down. Okay? This guy, full on Mortal Kombat 5-punch combo, as this dude is like falling to the fucking ground. Was like, holy shit, after he almost died, flew in the same day, award Kazimba, holy shit. What a fucking legend. What a fucking legend. You don't see shit like that. So, yeah, this was obviously kind of skipped right to the karate combat fights, but yeah, those were like some of the definitely highlights. Those 2 late notice guys coming in, performing. And in the main event, we had Shazib and Bruno Assis. Shazib Rind from Pakistan. He's very popular in Pakistan. He brought, I think his brothers, I think his family's into like social media influencing, something like that. Anyway, he's very popular in Pakistan. And he had a very, very tough fight against Bruno Assis. Bruno Assis was actually one of the first fighters I saw in karate combat. He had a fight with Bruno Souza. And yeah, Bruno Assis did well in the first round. He did very well. He got a couple knockdowns on Shazib. He put Shazib under the fire. And Shazib, up until this point, I think he had 5 fights, and in all of those fights, he basically dog walked those opponents. Like he knocked them out in like a minute, like literally every time, 1 minute, they would die. So in the first round, Bruno actually knocked down Shazib, and I had heard that Shazib, and you could see that Shazib was surprised. He looked even a little tired. Like, I had heard that Shazib for the weight cut, he was struggling for that weight cut. He was dry heaving and shit. So it looked really bad for Shazib, but shout out, kudos to him. He turned it around in an incredible performance. Bruno could not contend with the... When Shazib got him down to the ground, Bruno just could not get back up. He just could not get back up. I guess Shazib was too heavy on him, or the punches. Shazib was also very good about putting Bruno into the corner of the pit. And when you're in that corner, it's very, very hard to move. It's very hard to get out of there. And yeah, Mark Goddard called it off. And that was it. Shazib became the interim world karate combat champion. And he will face Luis Roca at some point. He was supposed to fight Roca in in Singapore, but Roca tore his ACL, I believe. So he got out and was replaced by Bruno maybe 2 weeks ago. So yeah, and this might have been a huge, huge benefit for Shazib because, like I said, he did not have a lot of experience. He had 5 fights, but he did not have a lot of time in the pit. It was basically him just dominating every single time. And in this fight, he did not dominate at the beginning, and to be able to battle through that adversity is very, very important. And I think that Luis Roca is better than Bruno Assis. Maybe even more muscly, bigger. I feel like maybe that's not true, but I do feel that. So if Shazib had went in there against Luis and Luis was able to knock him down, Shazib might have lost. And going through that experience of failure in the first round, coming back I believe is super important for a fighter, super important for anyone, to go through adversity and then to win. Because if you win every time without that adversity, then you don't know what happens when you get that challenge, right? Again, this guy Shazib, I mean, he's battled adversity his entire life. He comes from Pakistan. I bet he lives in he's like a very bad area of Pakistan, apparently very dangerous in the mountains and shit. So this man, he's no stranger to adversity. But still, in this context of the fight, of the karate combat fights, being able to pull through was very impressive. Very impressive. And the President Awesome has a very close relationship with this guy Shazib, and he tries to remain impartial, of course, but I believe that I don't know the full story, and maybe one day we'll have Shazib here on the show, or President Awesome, I don't know, either way, but Shazib, he was living at the goat shed. He was living I don't think he lives there now. I think he's got his own apartment now, but he was definitely living there. And I know that President Awesome once said that he had made enough, like at some point, like after living there for months and just eating at the gym, living at the gym, he had made enough money to buy a car. And the first thing that he wanted to do, what Shazib wanted to do with the car was, I can get a car, I can drive Uber now, right? That's the mentality. That's the hustle. That's what he was, that seems what he's all about. So congratulations to Shazib. He's the interim champion, and I'm very looking forward to that fight. Luis is a very strong guy. He was beat by Tebuyev, actually. Tebuyev is a very strong competitor. But we'll see how Roca does. We'll see how Shazib does standing up. Will he become champion? We shall see. So that was pretty much it for the main card. There were other fights, but whatever. But of course, there was also the IFC, the Influencer Fight Club, which I announced, which was awesome. And if you haven't seen, I was wearing a beautiful white tux, bow tie, Snorlax socks. It was fucking awesome. I got so many compliments on the outfit, which I was really happy about. I found a place here in Miami locally, Classic Menswear, I think it's called, because you don't find a lot of... If you just go to the men's warehouse or the suit supply, it's kind of very basic, kind of black, gray, green, blue kind of suits. Fuck that shit. We gotta look like $1 million. Bruce Buffer, he does it the best. This man, I think he has custom suits. I think he has multiple suits. He definitely has custom suits made for every single, like he had, I know for example, for the McGregor Chandler fight, which never ended up happening, he had a custom suit with the inside of the suit, McGregor and Chandler's faces, like all inside the suit. Amazing. And I think that he even has, he does that for every event, and I think he even has multiple suits, like multiple outfits per event. What a fucking champion. I mean, like, that is like freaking awesome. And I really liked wearing the tux in the role of the announcer. I think it adds a lot. I mean, for whatever reason, especially like in boxing, you think of the refs. The refs, like, they have like that, very clean, like very fancy look. And going into that karate combat, I knew that it was going to be at the Marina Bay Sands, one of the most expensive buildings in the world. Singapore, one of the most, and I wanted to look the part. I wanted to look fucking fancy as fuck. And damn, I looked fancy as fuck. So thank you to the Classic Menswear for hooking me up. And yeah, I was really happy. And I had, so earlier that day before the fights, I was was feeling a little sad. Honestly, I was feeling a little sad. I was feeling a little lonely. Even though I had this amazing opportunity, getting flown out across the world, and people dream of that. People dream of having these types of opportunities, and I was super grateful and super happy. But sometimes when you go on these trips, it's lonely and it's sad, especially when you're used to having your family with you every single day, being with your kids, being with your wife. Even when you don't have that, just for a couple days, you get a little sad. You feel like you're in a country where you don't know anyone, nobody knows you, nobody really cares about you. And also, in the karate combat production, there was some miscommunication. I thought I was supposed to do one thing, but they didn't tell me I was supposed to do another thing. So I was feeling a little confused. Felt very neglected. I felt really sad. As I was walking around Singapore, because I had went out earlier in the day, I just wanted to experience the city. I just wanted to see something. So I put in, basically, I just looked up online what's the best, what's an interesting attraction in Singapore, and I literally just put in, it said Orchid Street, so I was like, okay, Museum of Singapore is on Orchid Street. I just put that in the Grab, which is their Lyft, and I was off. And by the way, the Grab is super interesting because, that app, it's like Lyft, it's like Uber. You can order a taxi, a cab, but they have so many options, which is very interesting. They have that in Uber, but it's a way more developed app. Like, you can buy crypto inside of the Grab app, which is bizarre. Like, let me open this Grab app right here. Singapore. Okay. So in the payment tab, they have it's bizarre, a savings account, financial services, loans from 0%, Web3, insurance. Like, this is in the Uber app. They're selling you insurance, and literally it says Web3 in the Uber app. That is bizarre. I was like, what the fuck? And someone told me that they had like a Tinder. They had a Tinder in the in one of the apps. That is so wild. You're swiping as you drive. So anyway, I get in the cab, and I was like, take me to the Museum of Singapore. And I'm talking to the cab driver. Speaks perfect English. Super nice guy. And I'm like, oh, is that a good place to walk around? He's like, not really. Let me take you to this other place. So I was like, okay. So he dropped me off basically in a random place. I don't even know where I was, but I was very happy to walk around there. It was pretty cool. There was like a little it was called Arab Street, like, which is hilarious. And it was like an Arab quarter. It's called an Arab Street, which I found like pretty hilarious. But yeah, it was very pretty. They had like a lot of graffiti, not graffiti, but art, wall art. A lot of people walking around. People were there for the Formula Ones. I saw some real fancy cars there. Just drive Ferraris and stuff like that. Just driving around by police escort. I guess it had something to do with the Formula One, which was happening at the same time. And yeah, they had like a little outdoor market, kind of reminded me of like the Jerusalem market, kind of like a flea market type thing. I was walking through there. And more temples. Saw some priests, like half in the nude, which I was is that a religious exemption perhaps for nudity? I don't know. But yeah, I was walking around there and I felt a little lost. I felt confused, just a little out of place. And I walked by this sock store. And they had these Pokemon socks, and it put a smile on my face, but I kept walking. And I was continuing to feel like a little sad, but then I was like, if there's something that, puts a smile on my face, make you happy, I wanted to feel happy. I was like, why don't we cling to that? Why don't we like go for that? So I went back to the sock store and I bought those 3 pairs of socks, Pokemon socks, which were fantastic. I love them. There's one Pikachu, one Charmander, and one Snorlax. And when I saw the Snorlax, I'm like, I'm gonna wear these Snorlax socks with my tuxedo tonight. It's gonna be fantastic because when you go inside the pit, you don't wear shoes, so socks is the way to go. So I bought those socks, and that made me really happy. And yeah, that's just like a lesson to myself, I guess. Like, if you're feeling bad, if you're feeling upset, and then you see something that gives you a little bit of joy, even if it's a little, a snack, a drink, some socks, a Bugatti, Hermes shoe, whatever it is. I mean, I'm not talking about. Yeah, go for it. I wanted to I felt a little happy, and it brought me a little happiness to buy those socks. It really did. It brought me some joy. And I also think it brought it brought other people joy, because when I wore those socks, people were like, damn, those are some nice socks. And online, right, people are like, oh, look at those Snorlax socks, which is fantastic. I like the reason I like the Snorlax. I went for the Snorlax socks because Snorlax, he sleeps most of the time, but when he wakes up, he's powerful as fuck. You don't want to mess with Snorlax. And I felt the same way. I didn't have a lot of time in Singapore. It was very limited. Most of the time I was on the plane listening to podcasts. But when I had that opportunity to announce, when I had that opportunity to get into the pit and to do the best that I could do, I took that with every ounce of energy that I could give, with every muscle in my belly, like every ounce of air, I put it out there in the pit. And that's what that Snorlax meant to me. I ended up announcing the IFC fights, 5 fights. Great job by the IFC fighters. I mentioned Shiny D, and Shiny D did a fantastic job against Bama. It was an interesting matchup. I thought that Shiny D did not have enough training, did not have enough experience, but I think he might have bullshitted, because he looked great. And I think that, I think he played in, he tried to play into like him not knowing, like because even at the weigh-in, he ripped his shirt off, which was great. I told him to do that, by the way. And then he faced off with Bama, and he was holding in his hands in such a way that it just looked like he was holding it like this, even like this, right? And he was holding it in such a way that it was like, what the hell are you doing? Like, and he was staying on his tippy toes also, like. It was very strange, but like, and Bam was like, what the hell are you doing? Like, you don't know what the fuck you're doing. But shout out to Shiny D. He really showed up, got great abs. He fought with fucking braids on like a legend. And he beat Bama in a good fight. This is Bama's second time fighting. He lost both times, but he's a great competitor. He loves stepping out there. He's representing Ticker Bitcoin. The Ticker Bitcoin boys were there for him. And that was a great fight. Good job, Shiny D, for showing up, for kicking ass. Yeah. SolJakey was supposed to fight at that event, but he broke his arm, jacking off in an ATV or whatever. But he was there. SolJakey is a really nice guy. He is a really good guy. He's a sweet guy. He had pink hair, pink jacket. It was good to see him. And that would be a great guest. SolJakey. We'll definitely do a show with him whenever he comes back to Miami, or whenever I get a chance. I would love to do that. He's got a great crew with him, too. The photographer, his producer, also Steve, is really nice. So it was great to see him. And yeah, at the event, I also saw Ansim, Barney the boy, who was Ansim, the Ansim killer, fought as well. Barney the boy, he lost. He dislocated his shoulder almost immediately. Shout out to Tactical Investing. Tactical Investing has put in the fucking work. That fight was over in seconds. I'm not sure if Barney the boy came in there injured or what, but Tactical Investing has been looking really sharp. He was getting clowned on Twitter for like being slow or whatever, being out of shape, but he's dropped a lot of weight. He is looking good, and good for him. Good for Tactical Investing. Congratulations, Tactical Investing. But yeah, so Ansim was there. He was wearing glasses in a dark room the entire time. The girl he was with said he hasn't slept in 2 days. And this guy was tall as fuck, man. I was surprised how tall this guy was. Really impressive. And they also announced, so he was there, and then he announced later that day, or the day after that, he's going to fight BitBoy in the CFN. Just like, okay. BitBoy versus Ansim in the CFN. I don't know how. I mean, I think BitBoy is going to take that one. BitBoy he has hands, and Ansim does not. I mean, no offense, but his last showing against Barney the Boy was not impressive. So I'm surprised he's taking that one. I hope that he's training up. I would like to see a good competitive fight, because the last fight was not competitive. But now he's got experience. He's stepped in the ring before. I would like to see some training out of him. Will he do it? Fuck if I know. Crypto Bitlord was also there. Ansim and Bitlord were sitting and streaming the event, which was fantastic. Also, Choose Rich Nick was there. Choose Rich Nick and the Bodog crew, Pio and Clemente. Really nice guys. I made a great video with Nick. We had a beef, and then Boss Rutan came and KO'd us both. Boss Rutan is just a really sweet guy, a really interesting individual. Yeah, these fighters. What's interesting, and Nick Carter mentioned this while he was sitting in this very seat, that these fighters have a lot of spirituality. And yeah, Boss Rutan is one of those guys who's, right now he's very religious. I feel like he's very into restriction, and you don't necessarily think about fighters as being religious, but definitely they are. Shazeb obviously being a Muslim, a devout Muslim as far as I know. And I think that Nick Carter mentioned it. He said that a lot of fighters have that religiosity, and I think it's because that they want to draw strength from somewhere. They want to you need something outside of yourself to believe in, right? That can take you to where you need to go. And a lot of fighters rely on that energy in order to, push through and succeed. So yeah, Boss Rutan, a legendary man. Yeah. And so we had Tactical Investing, Barney the Boy, and in the main event of the IFC was Ashley Decans versus the Blonde Broker. Announcing that one from In the Pit was just fantastic. Did my best to hype the people up as I got in there. And there was guys that in the crowd, I went up to them. Cup of Joe. Shout out Cup of Joe. He came to the event. He was the guy that helped me set up the trip to the Bahamas after SBF. He was there and he was cheering me on. He was super hyped. And yeah, that made me feel really good to have that support from people in the audience, cheering me on. That feels really good. That felt really nice. especially after earlier in the day when I was, feeling kind of down. Having that support, it felt really, really good. It felt really good. So thank you, Cup of Joe. You're a good guy. Appreciate you. And yeah, so I announced, Ashley Decans versus the Blonde Broker. A great fight. Both of the girls did really, really well. They put on a good show. The Blonde Broker won. Good job. She was a little bit bigger than Ashley Decans, and I think that actually played a big role. Like, a bigger person in the pit, it makes a big difference. They were both tired as hell at the end, of course, but I think that the Blonde Broker being a little bit bigger, having a little bit more power, definitely helped edge her out. But, something that is really underrated about karate combat is how it inspires people to get into shape. It inspires people to work out. Like, even me, just being around these guys and looking at them and seeing them, and I'm like, when I was just in karate combat, I was super fat, and I would look at these guys, and they were all ripped and jacked and in really good shape, and I was like, what's the difference between this, that fighter and me? Like, we're the same age. I could be healthier. I could be closer to that than than a fat ass, right? Like, I want to be closer to that. Like, I don't need to have a six pack. I don't need to be jacked out of my tits. Most fighters are not jacked out of their tits. They're lean, like, right? But I was like, I want to be much closer to that than to what I was at the time. And that really did inspire me to work out and to exercise. And Ashley Decans and the Blonde Broker mentioned that same fact in the press conference, that this fight inspired them to lose weight. I think they both lost, maybe over 30 pounds. I don't remember exactly, but that's a shit ton. And that makes a huge, huge difference in your life. I lost, I think I'm on 185 now. I was probably close to 220. So what is that? 35 pounds. I've kind of plateaued, but I feel like I'm getting stronger, which is great. But yeah, it wasn't. I feel like I started that fitness journey even slightly before karate combat, but karate combat definitely inspired me, and gave me direction, because I wasn't interested in martial arts, at all before karate combat. I had done a little bit as a kid, but I had almost no interest. And yeah, just getting in shape and working out and fighting and, just training, sparring, whatever. It's really fun. And I don't think I would have even, found that avenue, if not for karate combat. Training martial arts is a lot more dynamic than just running on a treadmill. It's a lot more fun. It's engaging. It's a game. And like I said, I probably would not have found that if not for karate combat. So that is a very underrated aspect of this whole thing, that, the influencer fights, that it inspires these influencers who are out of shape to get in shape. And that's great. I love that. As opposed to Nina Avocado. Okay, I gotta talk about Nikita Avocado here. Nikita Avocado. You may know him. Now, what's different about Nikita Avocado? And if you don't know Nikita Avocado, he's this YouTuber, and he got extremely fat, and it was grotesque. And he would do these eating videos of him eating like tremendous, like ridiculous amounts of food, right? And then one day he posts a video that he lost all the weight. Like, he had pre-recorded a year worth of him being a fat ass, and then one day he drops a video of him being a skinny ass, like skinny like a stick, dude. Like, it's like an amazing transformation. But the way that he did it, which, again, for me to judge whatever his process is as a content creator, as an influencer, you know, is it really my place? No. So, you know, this is maybe judgmental on my part, but I feel like the way that he did it was kind of like a fuck you. Like, oh, you called me fat? I'm not fucking fat. I'm skinny. I'm skinnier than you, bitch. And I think that in showing, instead of just that jump cut from being a 300-pound guy to now a 180-pound guy, like literally, just that, like just like a cut like that, that is not inspiring to people. That is a fuck you to people, because you don't show people the struggle that you went through in order to get skinnier. Or maybe you didn't even struggle, like, but you definitely made changes in your life. And a lot of people struggle with being fat. Not in Asia. Everyone is skinny as fuck in Asia because they eat roasted chicken and rice for breakfast. Not Lucky fucking Charms, right? But I believe that showing that process of losing weight is inspiring to people. And I've had people message me, Gabriel, you've inspired me to go on this journey. And that makes me feel good. And I think that Nikita Avocado could have taken that opportunity to inspire people as well. Again, is it my place to judge him and say, oh, you should have done this and that? No, it's not my place. It's his life. It's his health. It's his brand. So, all the power to him. But for me personally, and also, and this relates to the IFC, that, they show their training. They show what they do. They show, working out, what they eat. And that leads to better outcomes for everyone who is connected to these people. And I think that is really one of the best things about the Influencer Fight Club. Apart from the fights, which are entertaining, but yeah, that a lot of people struggle being fat. A lot of people struggle with being fat. And just know that you don't have to be fat. You can work on it, and it's way better to lose weight, and because you will have more energy and you will feel better. That is why I personally did it. I personally felt very low energy. Very low energy when I was heavy. And of course, you're carrying around a lot of weight. Literally, you're carrying weight around, and it takes much more energy. And my daughter, I only had my daughter at the time, and I was just thinking, like, I got to take care of her. You can't be tired for no reason at 2 p.m. while you have children. Like, there's just no way. There is no fucking way. And that was my bottom line. Like, I need to do this in order. And that was a big inspiration for me, like a big part of why I went on this health and wellness journey that I've been on for, I would say, since I was 10 years. At least. Yeah. So yeah, congratulations to all of the IFC fighters. They did fantastic. Congratulations to all the fighters. They showed up. They did their job. They did their duty. And that was my last full day in Singapore. But I had one more night of fun before we left. My flight was at 9 a.m. And the fights ended past like 12, right? So I had to leave to the airport like in 5 or 6 hours. And I did not want to go to sleep, wake up. So I went out with Dave, who is one of the founders of Karate Combat. And what a night. What a night we had in Singapore. It was fun. We went out to a bar. We had a lot of there was a lot of struggle to find a place that was open, because apparently in Singapore things don't open late. Unless you know where to look, as it turns out. So we ended up going to a bar, had a couple of beers, had a sandwich, which was terrible, to be honest. Pulled beef sandwich. Yuck. And then at 3 a.m., the lady who's working the bar is like, "You got to get out of here. That's it." And it's so funny because like at 2:30 she's like, "At 3 o'clock you got to leave." And then at 2:45 she's like, she's 15 minutes left. And then at 2:50 she's like, "You got 10 minutes left." Like, it's so like, you got to get, like, they are so pressured to get you the fuck out of there, which is pretty interesting. Like, I don't think it's like that in the United States. So we went to that bar, hung out, talked. Dave is a crypto OG. And yeah, a lot of, he has some interesting insights. He was big in TradFi, I think before this. And he had an interesting, and we were talking about, and actually at this dinner, it wasn't, I mean, yeah, while we were sitting there, the news of the rate cut came out, which is obviously big news. And yeah, we started talking about the ETFs and the flows and ETH underperformance, Sol domination, stuff like that. And he had an interesting, he was like, he's like, "I can give you a fundamental reason why ETH underperforms." This guy is not, I don't think he's like bearish. He's very bullish on crypto and ETH and Bitcoin and I think most stuff. But he had made an interesting point that, like, that crypto is going in the direction, I don't know if he necessarily believes this, but he was just giving out a possible reason for ETH underperformance, but that Bitcoin, it used to be called the fat, what the fuck did I call it? Fat protocol thesis, where the application layer, which is like the L1, the Ethereum, is going to accrue all the value. But we've seen recently that I think it's going to switch to the fat app thesis, where like the app, it doesn't matter the chain, it more matters what app you're using on the chain. So that's why Aave has been, performing really well, for example. So he gave an interesting point that, Bitcoin is not a protocol layer, right? It's an application. He's just saying Bitcoin is actually an application, and the application is digital gold, and all this other stuff that they build on top, L2s and ordinals and all this stuff, are kind of like not used that much, and that Ethereum gets as underperformed because it's a protocol, not an application. Which is an interesting perspective. I mean, I have no idea if it's an interesting way to look at it. I don't think he even like necessarily believes that. But it just boils down to flows. What he said, like, the ETH ETF flows have been negative, I think, overall, where the BTC flows have been positive. And, that dynamic can change very easily. Like, the ETH flows can just, all of a sudden become positive, and then you have this, effect where reflexive effect up to the upside. Because people are only going to buy in when the number goes up, right? Right? That's the FOMO. So, yeah, hanging out with Dave. And so we had to leave there at 3 a.m. And then we went to, he looked for another place to find, and he found some lounge, which happened to be back at the Marina Bay Sands. So we went back to the Marina Bay Sands. And then we were standing outside this like club thing, and I'm like, I don't really want to go in there. There was like a long line, and we saw some people from Karate Combat. We say hi. And by the way, this is how clean like Singapore is. At 4 a.m. in front of the mall, like some, how they have like a carpet in front of, like a mall or a hotel or whatever. I'm literally at 4 a.m. There was a guy with a vacuum cleaner, and there's a bunch of people. There's like 20, 30 people all standing outside here. There's a guy who works for the hotel vacuuming up the carpet at 4 in the morning. This is like the level of cleanliness in Singapore. Like, I was like, what in the world? So, Dave, and we pick up King Apollo. King Apollo also works at Karate Combat. He's started doing some of the live interviews. I did the interview with him as well during the show, which was nice. And so Dave is like, there was this like party van that was parked, and Dave was like, where can you take us that's open now? So we get in the party van, and this guy, the driver's like, all right, are you ready to go? What music do you want? So I said, put on Kendrick, Not Like Us. So he puts on the song where he starts driving, right? He puts on all these crazy disco lights, right? And I'm singing along, we're singing along. And then, like, before the beat drops, he was like, they not like us. They like, before that drops, he puts on like this vapor explosion in the van, and it just goes, and then the whole car is filled with this like vapor and lights. It was like the craziest thing. And he ends up taking us to this, this club, which was awful. I hate clubs. I fucking hate clubs. I do not. So I'm carrying my tuxedo because I was wearing my tuxedo. I changed out of my tuxedo. So I'm walking around with a fucking tuxedo. We go into this club. It's loud. It's dark. It's like, what the fuck am I doing here? And I was only there very briefly. Like, and there were some characters there. Like, we're at the table. I was there for maybe 20 minutes. I'm, like, standing there trying to, like, clap, whatever. I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? I lean my arm on the back table, and the guy who's there by himself has a bottle, like, literally a full bottle of whiskey. As soon as I like, put my arm on his table, he's like, no. He, like, pushes me. He's like, no. I'm like, oh, sorry. It's like, okay, bro, okay. And then, so there's DJ, there's these two women DJ singing, dancing, whatever. Then a bunch of women go on the stage, and they're just standing there. And one by one, they go up, and they put on the sash with some number. 300, 200, 150. And then, like, people would go around, and then they would, like, pop this confetti on top of them and shit. I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? So it turns out at this club, you could buy some affection from these women. Now, I didn't understand what was going on while I was there. I took a cab home, like, 20 minutes after I got there, and the guy, like, explained to me, the nice cab driver explained to me how this whole shit works. So basically, and I saw the guy, like, while I was in the club, I'm like, are these whores? Like, what is going on here? Because I see the guy, like, transferring $250, $200 to the fucking pimp or whatever. Like, what is going on here? So the cab driver explains to me at 4:30 a.m. as we're driving back to the HolidayInn Express that you can buy just, like, time with these girls. And I'm like, you mean sex? And he's like, no. They will just hang out with you, and they'll talk to you, and they'll, like, dance with you or something. I'm like, really? Oh, geez. Bizarre. And he's like, well, if you want, you know, you got to ask them how much it costs for, you know, the naughty. And basically he was saying that the loophole in Singapore is like, you know, sex is legal. So he's like, what? This is just my girl. Like, you can just say, oh, this is my girlfriend. Because prostitution is illegal, but, oh, you can have a girlfriend, right? You can have a girlfriend. So he said they kind of look half-eye. They shut half their eye to it. And I was thinking, is that because they're Asian? Or no, that's because I'm racist. So it's like they turned a blind eye to it because there's hookers everywhere. Basically, he's like, there's hookers everywhere. He's like, there's hookers in Dubai. You can't drink alcohol, but you can get a hooker. I was like, this guy knows a lot about hookers. But actually, that guy that drove me home was super nice. He was the only guy that was willing to drive me back to the hotel. My phone was dead, so I couldn't use my Grab app to buy cryptocurrency and order a taxi. So I just ended up paying this guy like cash directly. Probably overcharged me, but he was really nice. And he thought I was doing laundry because I was holding my suitcase. He's like, "Are you doing laundry?" And again, these guys all speak perfect English. And yeah, so he was super nice. And yeah. And that was the end of the night. That was the end of pretty much my time in Singapore. He took me back to the hotel, packed my bags, took a shower, and I headed out to the airport in the car with Josh Palmer, Bas Rutten, Dean Thomas. Was just on Rogan the other day. He's part of the Protect Your Neck clan, the Protect Your Neck crew. Yeah, and he's always on the UFC broadcasts. So Dean Thomas, really nice guy, really cool guy. I went to his restaurant. He lives in Hollywood, and I went to his restaurant. He has got a restaurant up in Hollywood, something Maha Rose, I think it's called. Something like that. So it was nice. And yeah, so that was pretty much it. Got to the airport. The Singapore airport on the way back, just fantastic. Super clean, all carpeted. The food was really good in the airport. Again, what did I get for breakfast at 6 a.m.? Chicken and rice, roasted chicken and rice. And it was so good. It was so simple. Some veggies on the side, $12. I'm like, this is the best fucking breakfast ever. And what I liked about the airport in Singapore also is that they do the security at the gate. So you can basically walk through all of the duty free. You're walking in the duty free with, no security. Basically, you just pass through the customs, and then you're walking in the duty free. They have the food court, and then when you get to boarding, that's when then they do the security at the gate, which I thought was interesting. And I think it saves a lot of time because you don't have to wait with everyone to go through. You're just waiting with the people that are, boarding your flight. Which makes so much goddamn sense. I don't know why they do this whole, everyone has to go through the same fucking line. Why don't you just have the line at the gate? That way, just made a lot more sense. And I'd never seen that before. I've seen when you go to Israel, sometimes they'll do double. They'll do you have to go through TSA, and then the Israelis are like, TSA does not know how to check shit, so we're going to do our own security at the gate. That I've seen before. But one step at the gate, checking in. No, you check in before, but at the gate, going through the security, I thought was pretty nice. Great airport, clean. The Jewel, like I said, that massive mall with the waterfall. It was right there. And yeah, that was it. Got on the plane, flew to San Francisco, long flight, slept most of it. And listened to more podcasts. Joe Rogan. Listened to Joe Rogan, a really old episode with Victor Conti, Victor Conti was a guy who helped baseball players and other athletes avoid PED detection. So he was he was giving them PEDs, and they would avoid the detection. But yeah, great episode. But anyway, that was pretty much it. I brought my Game Boy Color, which my wife bought for me, playing Mario and Tetris most of the way there. A little bit of tower defense. They had a little tower defense game on the plane back, which was nice. Flew United on the way back, which was great. And yeah, that was pretty much it. Sat in the airport lounge. I got that Amex Platinum, so I get to go in those Amex lounges. Come on. I'm a high roller over here. You're just a pleb. Sorry. But actually in Qatar, in Doha, I felt like a pleb. Because even though I could go into the lounge, they're like, you can only go into this lounge. that other lounge requires a higher class. You know what I'm saying? So I felt like there was like tiers of lounges. So I was like kind of like there's the plebs who don't, you get no lounge, but then I was like, tier C where I got lounge, but like all the food in the lounge was like wrapped in plastic and like pre-prepared and not hot. But then I'm sure like B would be like hot food, and then A is like hookers massaging your feet and sucking your toes, or I don't know what. So maybe it's good I didn't get into the A. But yeah, a great trip, really fun. Blessed to be able to go back to the place that I was born after 25 years. Very thankful again to Karate Combat for bringing me out there, and thank you again to the Say Foundation and the Say community for sponsoring this show. I'm very excited. I'm planning to do this on a regular basis, so please tune in. Please subscribe. Follow me on x.com. I got a hyper sub, which is kind of like a Patreon. I'll put a link. And that's about it. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see you next time.